You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Peach State Payments, ethical processing, more profit, less stress. Chiro HD, more than an EHR, practice management simplified. The Chiro Speaking Company, attract, educate, and convert. Chiro Spring, cloud-based, user-friendly software with all the essential features chiropractors need. OmniWave, redefining comfort and acoustic wave technology. The Chiro Hustle podcast is sponsored by Chiro Health USA, ChiroScript AI, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, 5-Star Forge, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, and the IFCO. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 734 of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we have the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Fabrizio Mancini. If you want to hear our conversation about Spanish-speaking chiropractors and the Spanish-speaking community, stay tuned for the full episode. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. Today I have my friend Fabrizio Mancini on with me. Go to his website right there on the screen, drfabmancini.com. Love and appreciate this man, all the contribution he does for the beautiful profession of chiropractic. Before I get into this episode, it's 734. I'll tell you our big why. Why do we do what we do over here at Chiro Hustle? First things first, freedom of speech. We want to keep chiropractic front and center, and we would never censor the message for anybody. Medical freedom and family health freedom. We believe in those things. If you're looking for those identities for you and your family, reach out to a chiropractor in your city or neighborhood or state, and I'm sure they'd be happy to give you guidance on how to make a healthier family. Talking philosophically, we do protect BJ Palmer's Sacred Trust. If you don't know what that means, go to our website, chirohustle.com, click on the show notes, and look at the Sacred Trust. Now, I'll tell you, it doesn't matter if you've been practicing 30 years. I guarantee you're going to get some benefit and some value from understanding BJ Palmer's last written words. We also believe in subluxation-based chiropractic. I know I shouldn't have to say this, but they're taking it out of the schools, and it's a travesty to the future of this profession. So if you know a chiropractic student, please share the show with them. Share the show to your networks right now. Click share. It's real simple. Just hit click, share, post, and it's done. Everybody needs the message that Dr. Fab and I are going to be talking about today. And then we believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence and the educated intelligence. We believe that when man or woman, the physical gets adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual. I know that sounds woo-woo, but that's the major premise of chiropractic. The body needs nothing extra in it. It simply needs no interference. Once it's cleared, the body's connected, and then that becomes the educated intelligence. And this is episode 734. Dr. Fab, welcome to the show.
Thank you, buddy. You remind me of my philosophy professor in school. You know your stuff.
Well, you know, that's one of the foundations that a lot of the chiropractic seminars are asking me to come speak on, is to deliver philosophy to the audiences. So it's an honor to hear that from you.
Yeah. Well, you've always lived this since I met you. So thank you for the opportunity to have some time with you today.
Yeah. And guys, go back and look into the Chiro Hustle timeline. Dr. Fab was my last interview, episode 201. So there's been 500 and some episodes, 533 episodes in between last time we've had him on the show. So it's really nice to have him back. We were down in Parker in Miami this past weekend. Had a chance to interview him over there too. So go check on my timeline on Facebook and click on just scroll down probably like a couple days down, and you'll see Dr. Fab and I talking about Parker as well. But this is a different conversation. We're going to talk about his book that he just released. Do you want to show that to him quick?
Well, this is my 5th book. It's called Self-Help, and it's coming out hopefully by next week. So I'm excited that I'm doing the final edit. And this has been 4 months in the works to try to really drive the message of the administration to the average person out there that is really trying to figure out, how did we get here in the first place with such a sick healthcare system that we have in the United States? And why is it that 90% of the costs of all of healthcare happens to be in chronic disease? And what does that mean to us? What does that mean for our children? What does that mean for our country?
Well, there's a lot to unpack on this episode. And one of the things we're going to unpack is that new book. So thanks for giving a quick preview on that. Um, my big interest on today's conversation is the Spanish speaking market. And I know you come from Colombia, past president of Parker, whether it was Parker University or Parker College back then. There's been some transitions with the title of the college, but you came to Parker and decided chiropractic was the right pathway for you. But I really am curious about how we get the chiropractic into the Spanish speaking countries.
Well, it's interesting because when I came to Parker, Dr. Parker had always had the opportunity that if you were the first in a particular country, you will get a full scholarship to Parker College of Chiropractic at that time. When I was president of Parker, we went into a university status where I was president, and we took it from 1 degree to 21 degrees. And I think right now we have about 36 degrees in healthcare. But I think Dr. Parker set the foundation for me to recognize, just like BJ Palmer did for him, that in order to really spread chiropractic, we had to take it to those countries that were underserved. And for me, being a Latin Colombian, if you feel and can hear the sexy accent, I was born in Colombia. My mother's Colombia, even though I have Italian descent with my father. I did not get the scholarship being from Colombia because somebody else from Colombia had already been at Parker. But for whatever reason, Dr. Parker mentored me. And one of the first things that I did is I went practice in Belgium, Europe for a year because Dr. Parker suggested for me to learn what it is to practice without a license, just like many of our pioneers did in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. And then when I came back, I remember telling Dr. Parker that my next step was going to go pioneer chiropractic in Colombia. And I had already told my parents, I was already set. And he talked me out of it. He said, no, you need to come work with me first because you're not ready for something like that. And I worked with him for 2.5 years. And it's interesting because my contribution didn't come from the way that I thought I was going to do it right after school. It came while I was president of Parker, where the country of Mexico, the association, was trying to get a chiropractic program going, and they were really struggling. And we went down there as Parker, and not only did we make it very successful, we started 2 universities, and we brought chiropractic to that country. And now I think we have about 5,000 chiropractors that are practicing all over the country, and about 2,400 students between the 2 universities that are currently there.
Well, I've been down since 2016, contributing to the college in Veracruz and Ecatepec and in Toluca. So I've had boots on the ground participation with those colleges down there, spoken at many of the seminars down in Mexico. I love Mexico City. I love the country. I love the movement of the chiropractor down in Mexico. So it's really cool to see it all coming together. And yeah, it's almost going on a decade of me doing work with that group down there. So it's really cool to hear that you are somebody that went down there and helped establish those colleges.
Well, I think that as a school, I would tell you that we need to make efforts in recruiting more Hispanic and bilingual individuals into our schools. And then hopefully while they're in school, we can inspire them to go serve a different country or at least serve an underserved area in the United States where you have a lot of Hispanics and Latinos that are not getting chiropractic care. So that would be step number 1 that I think could set the foundation. Number 2 is for an Anglo individual to say, you know what? I love the Hispanic language. I love to speak Spanish. I love when I travel to those countries. I'm going to learn more Spanish, and I'm going to move to one of those countries and serve as a chiropractor. That's another way. When I was president of Parker in Mexico, we had an exchange program. And many of our students that went down there for 6 months to learn Spanish and serve that nation, they fell in love with somebody from that country and they got married and they have babies. And some of them came back here, some of them went back there. But it was a beautiful thing to see that when you intentionally decide to serve a country like in Latin America, there's so much. It could be a very fulfilling life that can bring you not only tremendous success as a chiropractor, but tremendous joy as a human being.
As you say this, it brings up some more ideas for me about this market. And one of the things that I'm really curious about, because I've been told that the US produces the most chiropractors out of any country, but I now have heard that Mexico is producing the second most chiropractors out of any country. So US number one, USA number one, Mexico number two. And I think that that's really incredible because I see that the Mexican chiropractor is becoming very sought after in the chiropractic market in Latin America or in the Latin speaking countries.
Well, there's a reason for that. The number one reason is the fact that when we started that program, we brought so much value because in Mexico, 94% of the healthcare bill is paid by the government. So it's a very governmental driven healthcare system. So when we were down there, the reason they brought us is because they had too many medical doctors and no jobs for them. So they wanted a new profession. And we brought chiropractic, we brought acupuncture, we brought nutritionists, we brought gerontologists, we brought a lot of the holistic practices there, professions. And for the Doctor of Chiropractic program, what we ended up doing is in the United States, an average degree in chiropractic, which is about 3.5 years nonstop, is about $120,000 on average. In Mexico, the government subsidized 5 years of education, not 3.5, 5 years. And guess how much they charge them to get that education?
I'm really curious.
$1,000. So what happened is that the government realized that in order to support the healthcare of that country, they needed to attract people that were not just the wealthy people. So they subsidized the education and then they put them into the system so that way they can serve their people. Then what happened is that other countries began to realize, wow, and not only can I serve Mexico, but maybe I can go to Colombia, I can go to Venezuela, I can go to Ecuador, I can go to Peru. And many of those graduates began to now expand in Latin America. And we started an association for Latin America because we have chiropractors pretty much now in every country in Latin America. And I believe most of that is because of the work in Mexico that has expanded through all Latin America.
Well, bravo to that, and bravo to the Mexican chiropractor, and bravo to the expansion going on, because it is having a ripple effect. And just like Jim Parker said to you, go serve in a nation that's not your own to see what it feels like. And that's the opportunity that a lot of these students are getting. So I think it's really, really cool. Now let's go from the professional to the actual patient. Let's talk about the mindset of the Spanish speaking patient. Share some ideas around that.
Well, one of the things that most people don't realize is that most of our Latin heritage is from the Indian roots, right? The Mayan, the Aztecs, and these are very holistic individuals. And even though in many of the major cities, capital cities of those countries, you will see the influence of pharma into those countries, you will still see that in the smaller cities is very holistic. So for a chiropractor to decide to practice, what you'll find is that number one, if you're in America and you attract a Hispanic patient, you will find a couple of things very quickly. Number one, they respect and listen to what your recommendations are. They don't question you. Why? Because the Latin individual has been conditioned to respect the authority of a provider, a doctor. It doesn't have to be just a medical doctor. They don't distinguish the way that many of the American patients do. They see you as a doctor. You're the healthcare provider. They're gonna listen to what you have to say. They're gonna do what you have to say. That's number one. Number two is that they are the greatest referral patients you can find. Why? Because Latin people, we still gather together. I mean, you will see that you can be easily have 7 people living in a 1 bedroom apartment, not because they can't afford it necessarily, but because they like community, they like family. They will bring their husbands, their wives. They will, visit. If their grandparents are alive, they will bring them in, and and it's really a cultural thing. So when you have an impact in a Latin patient, all of a sudden they start telling everybody about it while they're in their gatherings, because they see you not complaining about your healthcare issues, and they're going to ask you what happened last week. You couldn't hardly move. What happened? You were having all this asthma attack, and now I don't hear you at all, having difficulty breathing. What happened? I thought you couldn't get pregnant, and now all of a sudden you're carrying a baby. So whatever the case may be, that's the secondary thing that I think you will see from a Latin perspective. And I think thirdly, it will be in the fact that these are individuals that you should inspire to become chiropractors themselves. You know, I never forget when my chiropractor said to me, I was heading towards medical school and I had already decided I was going to be a neurosurgeon. And within the 4th week of care after a whiplash accident, I remember my chiropractor, Dr. Stephen Benthel, said to me, Fab, too bad that you're going to be a medical doctor. I think you would make a great chiropractor. And I'm telling you, just those words never left my subconscious mind, never left my heart, because he was innate speaking to me, right? Innate universal intelligence, God put those words in his mouth. And we used to do that all the time in the early 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s. And now rarely do chiropractors ever look at their patient base and see the future of our profession by simply encouraging those young people. Hey, I know you're thinking about becoming a kinesiologist, physical therapist, nurse practitioner, medical doctor, osteopath. But man, if you ever decide to be a chiropractor, I think you'll make a heck of a chiropractor. We need to get back to those roots.
Well, I think the fourth thing that you didn't mention there is a lot of the Latin culture are cash patients also. They don't play in the same arena as the medical insurance model. And I think chiropractic is moving into a cash-based model. And I believe not only the referral-based climate of having those patients and the family-based climate of having those patients, the community-based, but it's also the cash-based. And I think that paying for services rendered is a very great thing. And I go to Mexico a lot, and everybody has some pesos. Everybody has some cash in their hands. So it is really cool to see how they still deal with a different type of economy. And it's much different than the American economy. So anybody that gets, Spanish speaking patients, it's really cool to see how those practices grow and how the communities get healthier. And you are right. The power that made the body heals the body. And when people get adjusted, the asthma starts subsiding. When people get adjusted, there's babies being made. And it's because the nerve conduction, the nerves are reconnected to source, then the body's organized and it's able to do what it's supposed to. And that's philosophy. And that's one of the things I love about this profession. It sets it apart from any of those other professions you said. The philosophy of chiropractic is so unique and amazing. And if people just started to understand it more, they would fall in love with it just like we are. 90% of the American population is not under chiropractic care. I hear from the stage all the time, this 10% model, this 7% model, this maybe 13% model. How do we get to the other 90%, 93% model of people that are looking for chiropractic? They just don't know what's called chiropractic.
Well, I think the unfortunate thing, one of the things that I believe was a blessing in my life, is that I became a history buff as a student of chiropractic. I read every Didi Palmer book, PJ Palmer book, Dr. Parker lectures, and many other greats like Dr. Jim Sigafus. Many of these you may or may not have met, but these are the legends of our profession. And one of the things that you learn very quickly is that the premise of chiropractic was meant to be expansive. It wasn't never meant to be as narrow as it has become. And Didi Palmer, when you read his 1895, The Adjuster, I mean, it just opens up the whole world as to what is possible. And in fact, I'm working with a scientist right now that is very famous. And he said of all the observational scientists, that's what he called Didi, of all the observational scientists that he had ever studied, Didi Palmer, in his 33 principles, identified over 15 of the Nobel Prize winners that came after he died. He described cell signaling. He described the genome. He described the DNA. He described all of that, but he never got credit for it. He didn't use the language of science. So one of the projects that we're working on right now is that we're taking every principle of Didi Palmer and putting it into the scientific terms so people can understand that chiropractic is more scientific than ever, except many people out there question it all the time. So to me, you said it a little bit earlier. I've studied every profession out there in healthcare, and I never found a profession that acknowledged universal intelligence as a guiding factor towards all healing, right? Innate intelligence is the expression of universal intelligence within the body. But that premise there will keep us ahead of anyone in healthcare for the next 50 to 100 years, because that is a fact. That is science. That is a reality. So to me, I believe that it's important to recognize that what chiropractic has become, and I can share with you very quickly. Chiropractic, the first state to get a chiropractic license, right? In the early days, chiropractors were being put in jail for claiming practicing medicine without a license. They never stayed long in jail. Most of the time, the patients came out and testified, no, he's not doing medicine, he's doing chiropractic. The doctor, after adjusting everybody in the cell, including the judges, right? Because would get adjusted in the back, they would be released. And then when we started getting licensed, I believe Kansas was the first state in 1915 to get licensed, and then Louisiana 1976 was the last state. So between 15 and 76, we got licensed. So what does that mean? We are now legal to practice chiropractic. But as soon as we got legal, what happens? All of a sudden, reimbursement came into play. The only system of reimbursement is one that took holistic care, meaning we're going to take the whole body and try to figure out how to help the person, into mechanistic healthcare, which means he broke the body down. So now all of a sudden, if you wanted to get reimbursed, you couldn't say that the whole body was out of alignment. You had to say neck, mid back, low back, and begin to narrow and narrow and narrow our profession, the same as medicine. And then it became worse. In order to get reimbursed, you had to also give a diagnosis. Well, most diagnoses came from the medical profession. You put a series of symptoms together, you give it a disease name, and all of a sudden that's what you're treating. And there's a reimbursement component to that. Well, all of that, unfortunately, confused our professionals, and our new graduates were graduating never with the understanding that this profession since 1895 have served people in a way unlike any other profession. When I wrote the book, Chicken Soup for the Chiropractic Soul, people were sending their stories, patients were sending their stories. And I never forgot Jack Canfield, the founder of Chicken Soup for the Soul. And he said to me, Fab, we got over 6,000 miracles. People are claiming that they could see. People are claiming that they could walk after being paralyzed. People are claiming all kinds of things. What happened to our profession? And it was because we stopped sharing the message, and we stopped thinking of the possibility of the body's healing ability. And we start just managing symptoms pretty much the same way that most providers. So the reason that we're stuck is twofold. Number one is because most of our marketing and advertising since the 70s, 80s, and 90s were dealing with back pain and neck pain. So we became a back pain and neck pain profession for the majority of the American people. So that's number one. It came from the marketing that we were doing in our offices. Now, when they came into our offices, you would see miracle after miracle, but the perception of the public was that. Now that we have a new administration, and now that 90% of the conditions facing the United States are chronic diseases, we have to move away from just chronic pain and acute pain. We have to showcase the fact that the body, when you put it into motion, when you release that interference in the nervous system, has the ability to regulate and heal that system, that cell, that organ. And the more that we can promote that, the more that we can support the people out there that are really struggling today.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Peach State Payments. Ethical processing, more profit, less stress. Chiro HD, more than an EHR. Practice management simplified. The Chiro Speaking Company. Attract, educate, and convert. Chiro Spring, cloud-based, user-friendly software with all the essential features chiropractors need. OmniWave, redefining comfort and acoustic wave technology. The Chiro Hustle Podcast is sponsored by Chiro Health USA, ChiroScript AI, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, 5-Star Forge, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, and the IFCO. Let's hustle. Well, there's a lot there, and I want to go back to the linear. I'm going to go linear with you from what you just shared. And not only did D.D. Palmer, because I've read the book too, the 1895 chiropractic adjuster, and he also identified cancer. He also identified inflammation. He also identified that the organ system was organized with neurology, and that if there's a misalignment going to the organ system, the organ was going to shut down and not function. If you could adjust the vertebrae back into alignment, it took the infirmary out of that patient, and the patient naturally got better. Amazing stuff. So magnetic healing, he was basing his principles on Eastern philosophy, which was on the chakras and how the body was in alignment. And if the chakras were moving, then the body was healing. And that was a lot of his early training. And then he realized that we're beings of light. And that's where the word subluxation comes in. He believed that the body had electric light flowing through the spinal cord. And if the body was misaligned, then the electric light wasn't going through the nervous system and the body wasn't functioning optimally. And if we were less light, we were subluxated. And that joint, once he could correct that lation, the subluxation, the misalignment, then the body would have more lightness in it, which would be vitality. And I think that's a good tie-in for what you were saying about D.D. Palmer. Now, you talk about this pain-based model. Well, the reason it was packaged that way when the insurance infiltration came into the profession was because pain to the consumer, when it went away, was their value. And if we could say we can take care of your pain, that became a valuable inroad for people's like lights turning on inside of them saying, those are the people that can help with my pain. I'm going to go there. Problem is that over time, people started using chiropractic as an expensive Advil. And that's where we started losing the identity. And that's where people started to look at chiropractors as, if they weren't creating the miracle, they were charging them too much. And that's where the value started to get a little disconnected. But then you finished up that phrase there and that last bit there about new administration and the Maha movement. Let's talk. I know I didn't prepare you to talk about this, but let's talk about how chiropractic fits into the Maha movement.
Well, I've been part of that movement since the beginning, and understanding Bobby Kennedy's objectives, understanding Dale Victory's objectives. They're the founders or co-founders of Maha. Bobby went into HHS, and they'll continue the Maha Action Committee, which is the movement behind Maha. And what I was doing through this whole process over the last 10 years is working with a scientist, Dr. Narayan Naidu. And Dr. Naidu is one of the most esteemed scientists out there. And one of the things that he has taught me after reading D.D. Palmer and all the conversations we have over the last 10 years is the fact that every single vertebra has a metabolic function, and we can measure it. The only reason that we are not as scientifically validated in that space is because we cannot measure our progress, our outcomes, the same way medicine has already done it through the way that they do it. So now, all of a sudden, imagine this. Metabolism is the foundation of most of the chronic diseases, if not all of them. If we all of a sudden we palpate the spine and we find T3 as a potential misalignment, and then we do a marker that shows that the function of T3 is not working properly and validate that, now when we give an adjustment in that T3, we can actually measure it again and show how the body restored its system, right? And now the body is healthy again. So to me, in the Maha movement, one of the things that I wanted is for chiropractic not to be left behind again, because 90% of the conditions that the healthcare system is dealing with, the expense, the suffering, is for the most part preventable and reversible, especially under chiropractic care. So what did I do in this new book? I wrote the book primarily for the administration to take the message of chronic disease to the masses. But then I wanted them to understand that it wasn't the disease that we were talking about or the value. To me, it's the choices that they're making every day is really what's causing them or preventing them. So I wanted the choices to be rethought. How much do I sleep? What kind of food do I eat? Do I eat fried things that are cooked with oils that have been proven to be very carcinogenic and toxic to the body? Do I use sugar to the degree that everything I drink or eat has a lot of sugar, et cetera, et cetera? So, and then I wanted chiropractic. I did a whole chapter on chiropractic because I wanted the reader to understand that chiropractic has been here for 130 years supporting the whole body, not just one system or another system. The reason I became a chiropractor is because when I learned in neurology and physiology that the nervous system is the master system, it controls and regulates all other systems. That did it for me. I want to work with the most powerful system of the body every single day. And the adjustment is one of the safest, if not the safest, procedure in healthcare that we can do. That's why our malpractice insurance is so low, because we don't hurt people. Even when they try to claim that we cause this and we cause that, most of the studies that have been done after the claim have absolved chiropractic as being the primary cause of that particular problem. It was associated only because the person already had an issue and it just happened to be in the chiropractic office. Many times they didn't even get adjusted. They just had a stroke while they were sitting in the waiting area. And even if they got an adjustment and they had some kind of side effect, many times they found out that it wasn't the adjustment. Because if it was the adjustment, it would happen to most of the patients that we have. So to answer your question, right now we have a population that does not understand the value of chiropractic care. When I wrote the book, Chicken Soup for the Chiropractic Soul, it was to try to change that paradigm. And we did pretty good. But now we're living in a different time. Maha is putting chronic diseases front and center. Right now, if you say to me, well, where does chiropractic fall under that? I'm going to tell you it's going to be primarily in chronic pain. Why? We're very effective at managing pain naturally. But that's not all we do. Anybody that's been in practice 10 years, 20 years would tell you that they have the ability to support the whole body. I have seen miracles after miracles. This is my 35th year in practice. In September, I'll turn 35 as a doctor of chiropractic when I graduated in 1990. And I can tell you, that's the chiropractic that I want to continue to support, that I want to promote. That's the chiropractic that I wish for everyone, just like myself, my children, my family, has benefited so greatly from that.
Very, very eye-opening to many of the listeners, I'm sure, because everybody that I've been working with is very enthusiastic about Bobby Kennedy and the Maha movement and cleaning up our health sick care system. And I think there's a lot of cool things that we discussed today on today's episode. And I do believe that what you're talking about all leads to Heidi Havoc's research also, with the subluxation and condition specific. When we clear up the neurology through the adjustment, the master system, as you call it, the body starts to respond to that. And now she's showing how when the adjustment happens, it's changing the mapping of brains and how the brain is getting healthy and how the body starts to follow suit because the brain's healthy. And that's real neurology. And that's really back to D.D. Palmer's work. So we are just 130 some years into the game of chiropractic, still a very young profession. Last question for you. How do we unify chiropractors more? Because that's been one of like the sticks in the mud, if you will, as I've been a part of the profession for 16 years, you're saying 35 years. And I'm not a chiropractor. I worked in a clinic for 6 years. I go out and find people in the public and get them into chiropractic offices. And the people I deal with in the public, they have no idea the disconnect within the profession. And how do we actually unify chiropractors once and for all?
Well, it's interesting because when I came into this world as a president of a university, I can tell you I was not prepared necessarily for all the politics within our profession. And one of the things that I have always been known for is somebody that is welcome in every circle. I have never polarized the profession where the ICA may say, well, if you speak at the ACA, we'll never have you, or the ACA will say, if you speak here, the ACA will never have you, or if you speak for Texas, you in Florida, we'll have you, etc. So my secret all these years has been that my conversations have been about impacting our patients' lives. Because when we focus on our patients, the differences that we may have are not as important anymore. Because at the end of the day, we are more alike than we're different. Now, the problem is this. Every single school of chiropractic is managed differently, has a different foundation, philosophy, background, whoever created it. Many of the presidents that continue, the boards that continue, try to keep that alive. The same with ICA and ACA. Their arguments are still the same arguments they had 50 years ago. They have not changed. Why? They're trying to be loyal to their founders' perspectives. I'm saying to them right now, stop trying to justify the past and move into the present, because we have over 80,000 chiropractors or so in the United States that need leadership in our profession that is unified. We need people to recognize that our profession is bigger than ourselves. And regardless of my opinion, it's okay for somebody else to have a different opinion. I don't have to go after them, try to destroy them, try to embarrass them, try to write about them, talk negative about them. No, I can talk about what I believe. I can talk about what chiropractic is to me. Our biggest limitation factor, you know what it is? Our scope of practice. We don't have an expansive scope of practice, and anybody can come to a chiropractor. In some states, we can't even give a nutritional supplement. In some practices, we can even adjust certain areas of the body, like extremities. That is unheard of. We are a natural profession that we're trained to do a lot of the things that many of our states are not letting us do, and that has to change. We need to revise our scope of practices. We need to have an expansive, and then you, as a doctor of chiropractic, you can choose how you want to practice, but without disparaging your neighbor that may be practicing in a different way. That's how we unified our profession, by respecting each other's differences of opinion and recognizing there's no right and wrong. Because the only thing that we have to recognize is that we have an underserved population that is dying every single day, including our children, because of the lack of chiropractic care. And that's what I focus on every single day.
Well, Dr. Fab, I appreciate you. True pro message there. I do think that there needs to be some unification within the message. And that's why Chiro Hustle has been growing and becoming so popular, because I've never sent anybody away and I've never censored them like I open up with. I've never shut anybody down for their belief systems in this profession. And I've been able to unify the profession with this message over the past 8 years of doing Chiro Hustle podcast. And, you know, I go back and I look at you being on in 2020 and back in episode 201. It's just really cool to see how the profession has responded to me and has been so grateful and thankful for the work that we do over here as journalists and as podcasters. When I started this, Fab, no one even could tell you what a podcast was. Now, every Johnny come lately has 2 podcasts with 5 episodes. And I just want to encourage people to continue on. But like I said before we went live today, and I'm not throwing rocks at people for not having a following, but stick with your show if you're going to put one out there. Create valuable content. Hey, reach out to Fab Mancini. Maybe he'll be on your podcast too. In closing, tell us a little bit more about your book and where people can find it once it's released.
Well, the reason that I brought this, as I said earlier, is to really bring the message of what chiropractic has stood for many years, and that is that there's a root cause to every disease pattern out there. And as we're bringing up the value of looking into the root cause, people are going to start asking questions. And nerve function is going to be one of the biggest root causes that we will find in all of this process. The secondary ones are our lifestyle choices. I truly believe that every chiropractor should actually become the lifestyle doctor for their communities, because lifestyle is the secondary root cause that we have found: lack of sleep, bad eating, lack of exercise, all the things that we know is lifestyle, poor attitude, negative thinking, all of that. So in this book, what I do is I showcase the science of the lifestyle choices so people can make a different choice when it comes to their health. So every chiropractor can give this to a new patient. They can talk about it. And because chiropractic is within this book, all of a sudden that we see the relevancy of their conditions when it comes to coming to you to address the root cause. And that's really the thing that I wanted to create with this. It's a tool. To me, books are just tools that are just sharing. It's one medium, right? It will have an audio version of it. It will have, I'm sure, a lot of footage and videos on it. But you as a chiropractor, you have an opportunity to really get into the reversing of chronic disease game, which is going to be the priority over the next 3 to 4 years. And we need to be front and center talking to our patients about the relevancy of chiropractic care when it comes to their chronic disease processes. And recognize that your disease is not a life sentence, that your genes are not determining your future. That is really the message I want to bring. And I'm only doing that as a doctor of chiropractic because that's been my professional life over the last 35 years, where I have seen individuals and healing potential like never before, just what we've been taught in school. And that's what I'm hoping every chiropractor out there is going to continue to promote, so that way we can be relevant during this time.
Dr. Fab, thank you for being on with me today. Really appreciate you sharing your wisdom and your passion for this profession. At this juncture, is there anything I didn't ask you that you'd like to share with our audience?
Well, you didn't ask me, but I'm just going to say, and I try to tell you every time I see you, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being that example of a patient that their life was completely shifted with chiropractic care. You have taken it not only to your own health and your family's health, but you have taken it as a mission to promote this value and this message of chiropractic to the thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people that you reach, not just through your podcast, but with all of your speaking engagements. And if you guys ever see his name at any of our events in chiropractic, do not miss his class. I promise you, you will not be disappointed, because he's a reminder of us why we got into this in the first place. So God bless you for that. And thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you for the kind words. It means a lot to me, especially coming from such a great leader as yourself. And thank you for adding so much value and staying relevant in this chiropractic marketplace. As I close out your episode 734, guys, if you made it to this far, please share the show. If you found some value, please comment on the podcast, and check out our other episodes over at chirohustle.com. There's so many over there that can help you take your drives to work or share with your patients or share with another colleague to be enthusiastic about this beautiful profession of chiropractic. And like I always do at the close of these episodes, I always tell people you're just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye for now. Thanks, Dr. Fab.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.